Chapter 1. Blood hits my porch before I even open the door. I freeze with my hand on the latch, breath caught hard in my chest. The smell comes first, thick and copper, rolling in under the crack of wood. Then I hear it. A low, ragged breathing, too big to belong to anything small. I should run back inside, bolt the door, blow out the lamp and hide until sunrise. Instead, I open the door wider. The thing on my porch is massive. Black fur soaked dark with blood, matted against a body that takes up the whole length of my steps. A wolf, but not like any wolf I have ever seen pictures of in the old books I keep hidden under my floor. Its shoulders alone are wider than my kitchen table. One of its back legs is bent wrong, and a wound gapes open along its ribs, deep enough that I can see muscle. My legs move before my mind agrees to it. I kneel down in the blood. It soaks through my pants instantly, warm and sticky, and my hands are shaking as I reach for the torn skin. Every instinct screams at me to pull back. This animal could snap my arm off with one bite, but something under my skin, something older than fear, pulls me closer instead of away. The wolf's eye opens. Just one at first. It is silver. Not gray, not pale blue. Silver, like a coin fresh from a mint, glowing faintly even in the dark. It fixes on me and does not blink. I freeze again, hand hovering an inch from the wound. "I'm not going to hurt you," I whisper. And I feel stupid saying it to a creature 4 times my size, bleeding out on my porch in the middle of a storm. But the eye stays locked on mine, and something in it looks almost like it understands. I press my palm against the gash anyway. The wolf does not growl. It sucks in a breath through its nose, sharp and pained, and its whole body goes rigid under my hand. I whisper for it to hold still, grabbing the hem of my shirt and tearing a strip free to press against the wound. Blood soaks through in seconds. I need more than fabric. I need bandages, the real kind, from the cabinet by my bed. I start to pull back, just for a second, just long enough to get inside and grab supplies. A paw the size of a dinner plate slams down over my wrist. I gasp, my whole body going still. The wolf's claws do not break skin, but the weight is enough to pin me flat to the porch boards. Rain soaking through my clothes, blood pooling beneath both of us. Its head lifts slightly, silver eyes locked on mine with an intensity that does not belong to any animal. "I need to get bandages," I say, voice cracking. "I'm not leaving, I promise." The paw does not move. My heart pounds so loud I swear the wolf can hear it. I stay frozen there, rain hammering my back, blood soaking through my shirt, staring into an eye that studies me like it is reading every thought behind my face. Slowly, so slowly, the pressure on my wrist eases. I don't wait for it to change its mind. I scramble up, sprint inside, grab every bandage and clean rag I own, and hurry back before the cold air can pull the door shut behind me. The wolf has not moved. Its breathing is shallow now, chest rising in short, uneven pulls. I kneel back down, hands working fast, wrapping cloth tight around the wound on its ribs. It flinches when I touch a spot near its shoulder, teeth baring for half a second before the growl dies in its throat. "Easy," I murmur, keeping my voice low and steady, the way I would with anything wild and hurting. "Easy, I've got you." I finish tying off the bandage, and my hands are shaking so hard the knot barely holds. The wolf's breathing slows, just slightly, like the pain has eased enough to let it think straight again. Then it happens. I start to pull my hands back, ready to sit up, ready to put space between me and something that could still kill me without meaning to. But the wolf shifts, fast for something so wounded, and that same massive paw pins my whole arm to the porch floor, harder this time. I freeze, breath catching in my throat. The wolf's eyes open fully now, both of them silver and sharp and far too intelligent for an animal that should be half dead. It stares at me like it is memorizing my face, like it already knows something about me that I do not know about myself. Then it exhales, long and slow, right against my throat. The scent hits me like a wall. Winter pine, sharp and clean, wrapped around something darker underneath. Something that makes my whole body go warm despite the cold rain soaking through my clothes. My mind goes hazy for a second, my omega instincts rising up from somewhere deep and old, recognizing a scent I have never smelled before but somehow already trust. Raw alpha pheromones. I do not move. Cannot move. The wolf's paw stays locked over my arm, its silver eyes burning into mine, and for the first time since I found this place off the grid, I understand that the danger on my porch is not the wound bleeding into the wood beneath us. The danger is how much I do not want to pull away. Chapter 2. The wolf's paw stays over my arm long after the rain slows to a drizzle. I lie there on my porch, soaked through, staring up at silver eyes that refuse to look away from me. My pulse is loud in my own ears. Every part of my training, every rule I have lived by for 6 years, tells me to get up and run. Instead, I stay still, letting the massive weight of its paw hold me down like it belongs there. Eventually, it lifts its head and eases the pressure, letting me slide my arm free. I sit up slow, rubbing at the spot where its claws pressed into my skin without breaking it. My eyes drop to the wound I bandaged. The cloth is already soaked through with blood again, and I know it needs more than what I have used so far. I help drag the wolf inside, one arm braced under its shoulder, its weight nearly crushing me twice before we make it through the door. It collapses onto the floor by the fire, chest heaving, blood smearing across the wood in a long, dark trail. I have lived alone in this cabin for 6 years, ever since I fled the registry lines. Every omega who reaches maturity is required to register with a pack, to be claimed, tracked, accounted for under the rank enforcement laws. Unclaimed omegas are hunted like criminals, treated as property with no owner, dangerous simply for existing outside a bond. I chose the woods instead. No pak, no mark on my neck, no name in any registry that says who owns me. It has kept me alive, but it has also kept me hollow, jumping at every sound, sleeping with a knife under my pillow, learning to disappear into silence the moment boots crunch too close to my land. The wolf watches me move around the cabin, gathering more bandages, boiling water, cutting clean strips of cloth. Its silver eyes never leave my face, tracking every motion like it is studying a puzzle it intends to solve. I kneel beside it again and press a warm cloth to the wound. It flinches but does not snap at me this time. You're not just an animal, I whisper, more to myself than to the wolf. I don't know what you are, but you're not just an animal. Its ears twitch like it heard me and understood every word. I work through the night, cleaning the wound, wrapping fresh bandages, feeding the fire to keep the cabin warm enough for both of us. The wolf drifts in and out of sleep, muscles twitching, low whines slipping from its throat every so often like it is fighting something in its dreams. Near dawn, I finally allow myself to rest, curling into the chair across from the fire, eyes heavy, body aching from the night's work. A sound jolts me awake, fists pounding against my door, hard and fast, rattling the frame in its hinges. My whole body goes cold. I know that knock. I have heard it before, years ago, right before I fled the last place I called home. It is the knock of enforcers, the pack soldiers tasked with hunting down unregistered omegas and dragging them back to whatever authority claims jurisdiction over the land they are found on. Open up! A voice barks from outside. We're searching every cabin on this ridge. There's a fugitive loose in this territory. My breath catches so hard it hurts. I look at the wolf, expecting panic, expecting it to bolt or growl or give us both away. Instead, it moves. Faster than something so wounded should be able to move, the wolf rises onto 3 legs, nudges me hard with its head toward the back corner of the cabin, and noses at a section of floorboard I thought no one but me knew existed. My hidden space. The one I built with my own hands the first winter I arrived here, just in case this exact moment ever came. I stare at it, stunned. There is no way it should know that space exists. No way an animal, no matter how intelligent, should be able to find a hidden compartment built specifically to hide a person from soldiers with silver blades and empty eyes. The fists pound again, louder this time. Last warning. Open this door or we break it down. The wolf shoves me toward the floorboard with its nose, its silver eyes locked on mine with an urgency that leaves no room for hesitation. I drop to my knees and pry the board loose, sliding into the narrow space beneath my own cabin floor, heart hammering so hard I can feel it in my throat. The wolf settles itself directly over the space, covering the seam with its massive body, hiding every trace that I exist. The door bursts open above us. Boots stomp across my floor, inches from where I hide in the dark, breath held so tight my lungs burn. I hear the enforcers moving through my cabin, searching every corner, every shadow. Then one voice, closer than the rest, right above the floorboard where the wolf lies still as stone. What in the hell is that thing? Chapter 3. The enforcer's boots stop just above my head. I hold my breath in the dark, pressed flat against cold dirt, listening to every creak of the floorboards through the thin wood separating me from the men hunting me. The wolf does not move an inch above the hidden space, its massive body draped over the seam like a boulder that has always belonged there. It's just a wolf, another voice says, farther off, rifling through my shelves. Big one though, half dead from the look of it. Don't touch it, the first voice snaps. Rabid animals carry disease. Leave it be and keep searching. Footsteps move away, boots pounding through every room, drawers yanked open, furniture shoved aside. My whole body shakes from the effort of staying silent, every breath measured and slow, every heartbeat feeling loud enough to give me away. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours. Finally, the door slams and boots pound down the porch steps, voices fading into the storm outside until the cabin falls silent except for the crackle of the dying fire. I wait a long time before I dare move the floorboard. When I finally push it open, the wolf lifts its head, silver eyes finding mine in the dark like it never once doubted I would come back out. I climb free, legs shaking, and collapse onto the floor beside it, my whole body trembling from the fear that has not yet left my chest. You saved me, I whisper, staring at the massive creature bleeding onto my floor. You knew exactly what to do. The wolf huffs, a sound almost like agreement, and lays its head back down. I know I cannot let the scent of its blood linger. Enforcers travel with tracking hounds, and if they come back through this ridge again, the smell will lead them straight to my door. I need to mask it, cover every trace of blood and wound with something strong enough to fool a hound's nose. Lavender. I keep bundles of it dried above my hearth, used mostly for calming teas during bad nights. It is strong enough to overpower most scents if used right. I fill my old wash tub with warm water and crush handfuls of dried lavender into it, the smell filling the cabin thick and sweet. Getting the wolf into the tub takes nearly everything I have. It growls low when I first try to guide it forward, teeth bared just enough to remind me exactly how dangerous it still is despite its wounds. But I keep my voice low and steady, coaxing it forward inch by inch, until finally it steps into the tub with a huff of clear irritation. I start scrubbing the thick fur along its back, working the lavender deep into every strand, careful around the bandaged wound on its ribs. The wolf tolerates it, mostly still, occasionally shifting when the water runs too warm or too cold. Then my hand brushes a spot along its shoulder, near an old scar hidden beneath the fur. The reaction is instant. The wolf's jaws snap shut inches from my face, teeth flashing white in the firelight, a growl ripping from its throat loud enough to shake the walls. I freeze completely, hands still hovering near the scar, my heart slamming against my ribs. Silver eyes bore into mine, wild for just a moment, before something in them settles again, like it fought against its own instinct and won. I'm sorry, I whisper, pulling my hand back slowly. I didn't mean to. The wolf exhales hard through its nose, tension easing from its shoulders bit by bit, and after a long moment it allows me to continue washing, avoiding that same spot completely. I keep scrubbing, working through knots and tangles matted with dried blood, until the water around us turns a dull shade of red and the lavender scent fills every corner of the cabin. My fingers finally reach deep into the thick mane along its neck, and that is when I feel it. Something hard beneath the fur. I part the wet strands carefully, and my breath catches in my throat. Collar. Heavy, black, made of some kind of dark metal I do not recognize, buried so deep in the fur that it must have been there for a very long time. I trace my fingers along the surface until I find it, an engraving pressed into the metal, unmistakable even in the dim firelight. A crest, sharp lines forming the shape of a crown wrapped around a blade. I know that crest. Everyone in these territories knows that crest. It is stamped on every enforcement notice, every registry law, every wanted poster nailed to trees along the border warning Omegas like me what happens if we are caught. The crest of King Vane. The tyrant responsible for the very laws that forced me into hiding, the same laws that sent enforcers pounding on my door tonight, the same laws that have kept me alone and terrified for 6 long years. I stare down at the collar, my hands frozen against the wolf's soaked fur, and slowly lift my eyes to meet the silver gaze watching me with an intensity that no longer feels like an animal's. Feels like a warning. Chapter 4. I do not let go of the collar. My fingers stay locked around the cold metal, staring into silver eyes that have not looked away from me once since I found it. The wolf's breathing has gone slow and careful, like it is bracing for whatever I say next. This is his crest, I whisper, voice shaking. King Vane's crest. The wolf does not growl. It does not snap. It simply watches me, still and silent, water dripping from soaked fur onto my floor. I release the collar and step back, putting distance between us for the first time since I dragged this creature through my door. My mind races through everything I know about the tyrant whose laws stole my freedom. The man who signed the Rank Enforcement Act. The man responsible for every checkpoint, every registry line, every enforcer boot that has ever pounded on my door in the middle of the night. And somehow, impossibly, his crest is buried in the fur of the wolf currently bleeding on my cabin floor. Pack preservation, I say quietly, staring at the collar instead of the wolf now. That's what they call it. The laws that keep Omegas like me registered, tracked, claimed. They dress it up in fancy language, tell everyone it protects the packs, protects the bloodlines, protects tradition. The wolf's ears tilt toward me, listening. It's funny. I continue, my voice hardening with every word. In your world, maybe you don't know what it's like outside these territories. But where I come from, they used to say the same thing about people who loved differently. They called it protecting family values. Protecting tradition. Every single time someone in power wants to control who a person loves, who they are allowed to be, they wrap it up in words like heritage and morality. I laugh, short and bitter, shaking my head. The oppressors always hide their cruelty behind the same words. Tradition, preservation, protection. And the ones who suffer under it are always the ones with the least power to fight back. The wolf whines, a low, aching sound unlike anything I have heard from it before, its head lowering slightly like the words themselves carry weight. And now the architect of every law that stole my freedom is bleeding on my floor. I whisper, staring hard into silver eyes that refuse to look away, completely at my mercy. Silence stretches between us, broken only by the fire crackling low in the hearth. Then the wolf moves. It shifts closer, slow and deliberate, until its massive head rests gently against my knee. The weight of it nearly knocks me off balance, but I stay still, staring down at the creature whose collar bears the crest of the man who destroyed my life. A whine slips from its throat again, softer this time, almost apologetic. I do not know what to make of it. An animal cannot feel guilt. An animal cannot understand the weight of laws and registries and years spent hiding in the dark. But something in the way it looks at me, something in the way its whole body seems to sag under an invisible burden, makes me wonder if this is not simply an animal at all. I'm scared. I admit, the words slipping out before I can stop them. I've been scared for 6 years. Every knock on my door, every sound outside at night, every time I hear boots on the ridge, I think this is it. This is the day they find me and drag me back to a registry line, or worse. The wolf's head lifts, silver eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that steals my breath. I'm going to die alone in the cold, I whisper, voice breaking, because of what I am, because I refuse to be claimed, refuse to be property, refuse to let some pack decide my worth. That's my future. That's what your laws made certain of. The wolf goes rigid. Its body begins to shift in the firelight, muscles rippling beneath soaked fur in ways that should not be possible, bones shifting with a low, cracking sound that sends ice through my veins. I stumble back, breath catching hard in my throat, watching the shape beside me twist and change in the shadows cast by the dying fire. A hand. A half-formed, human hand, fingers still tipped with claws, reaches out from the shifting mass of fur and shadow, closes around my wrist. Chapter 5. The hand around my wrist is burning hot. I gasp, trying to pull back, but the grip holds firm, fingers still half-shifted between claw and human flesh. The wolf's body convulses in the firelight, shadows twisting across the floor as bones crack and reshape beneath torn black fur. A low, agonized groan rips through the cabin, deep and human in a way that sends terror straight through my chest. Then the shifting stops. The hand releases my wrist, and the wolf collapses back into its previous shape, chest heaving, fur soaked with sweat now instead of rain. Its silver eyes squeeze shut, and a shudder runs through its entire body. "What is happening to you?" I whisper, kneeling closer despite every warning screaming through my mind. Heat radiates off its skin in waves, far hotter than any fever an animal should survive. I press my palm against its side and nearly recoil at how scorching the fur feels beneath my hand. Its breathing turns ragged, shallow pants breaking into low, pained whimpers. I understand fever. I understand sickness. I do not understand whatever poison is clearly fighting for control of this creature's body, forcing it to shift between forms it cannot fully control. The wolf's muscles seize, back arching hard enough that I fear its spine might snap. A growl tears from its throat, deeper and more dangerous than anything I have heard from it so far, and I realize with a jolt of fear that whatever is happening is stripping away its control entirely. I have read about this before, buried in old texts hidden beneath my floorboards. Feral fever, a state some alphas fall into when poisoned with rare toxins meant to strip away their higher mind, trapping them in their base form while agony eats away at whatever control remains. If that is what this is, I am in serious danger. A fully feral alpha recognizes nothing except instinct, and instinct in this state can turn deadly without warning. I need to calm it before that happens, before whatever remains of its human mind disappears completely into rage and pain. I do the only thing I know how to do. I lean close, baring my throat the way old instinct tells me an omega should when trying to soothe a distressed alpha, and I let my own scent rise, warm and calming, the way it naturally does when someone I care about is in pain. The wolf's head snaps toward me instantly, nostrils flaring wide. For a moment I fear I have made a terrible mistake. Its silver eyes blaze with something wild and unfocused, teeth bared, body coiled like it might strike. I force myself to stay still, throat exposed, scent pouring out steady and warm despite the fear hammering through my chest. Slowly, the wildness in its eyes begins to fade. Its breathing steadies, muscles relaxing bit by bit, until finally it presses its massive head against my throat, breathing in deep, shuddering pulls of my scent like it is the only thing keeping it grounded. I stay frozen, heart pounding, one hand resting carefully against its neck. Minutes pass like this, my scent working slow and steady against whatever poison rages through its blood. Then, all at once, the fever breaks. The wolf's body sags heavily against mine, and before I can react, the shifting begins again, faster this time, bones cracking and reshaping with brutal speed. I scramble back, pressed against the wall, watching black fur peel away into pale skin, watching four legs fold into two, watching a massive wolf disappear entirely into something far more dangerous. A man kneels where the wolf once lay. Broad shoulders, dark hair damp with sweat, a body built like every terrifying story I have ever heard about warrior alphas trained since birth for violence. Bandages still wrap around his ribs, stark white against sun-darkened skin. He lifts his head. Silver eyes lock onto mine, sharp and clear and burning with a terrifying kind of awareness that was not there in the wolf's gaze. No confusión. No haze of fever. Only sharp, deliberate focus aimed directly at me. I press myself harder against the wall, my whole body trembling. The man moves fast, closing the distance between us before I can even think to run, one arm bracing against the wall beside my head, trapping me completely beneath his gaze. His breath is warm against my face, his silver eyes burning with something I do not have a name for. You, he says, voice low and rough, like he has not used it in a very long time. You are the one who saved me. I cannot answer. My throat has gone completely dry. His gaze drops briefly to my throat, to the spot where my scent still lingers thick in the air between us, before lifting back to my face with an intensity that steals every ounce of air from my lungs. Chapter 6. His hand slams flat against the wall beside my head the exact moment the window behind him shatters inward. Glass sprays across the room in a burst of cold air and firelight. Vane spins around fast, putting his body between me and the broken window before I even understand what happened. I press back against the wall, heart slamming so hard I taste it in my throat. Stay down, he says, voice sharp and low, all the earlier heat gone from it, replaced by something cold and lethal. I drop instantly, crouching behind an overturned chair, watching him move across the cabin with a speed that does not match a man freshly recovered from fever. He grabs a length of iron from beside the hearth, the same rod I used to stoke the fire, and holds it like a blade forged for war. A shape drops through the broken window. Then another, and another. 3 figures in dark leather, faces covered, blades gleaming with a strange silver sheen under the moonlight pouring through the shattered glass. My stomach drops. Silver-laced weapons. The kind used specifically against alphas, designed to poison on contact and weaken even the strongest bloodline. Sterling sends his regards. One of the assassins says, voice muffled beneath the mask. He said to tell you the throne prefers a corpse to a king who forgives omegas. Vane's whole body goes rigid. I do not understand everything in that sentence, but I understand enough. Sterling. The name settles into my mind like a stone dropped into still water. Someone close to Vane, close enough to know his weaknesses, close enough to send killers into the middle of nowhere to finish what the poison could not. The first assassin lunges. Vane meets him head-on, iron rod cracking hard against a blade aimed for his throat. The clash echoes through the cabin, sparks flying where metal meets metal. I press myself smaller behind the chair, watching a fight unfold that moves faster than anything I have ever witnessed, brutal and precise. Every strike aimed to kill. The second assassin circles wide, moving toward me instead of joining the fight directly. My breath catches. I grab the only thing within reach, a heavy clay pot from the shelf beside me, and grip it tight, ready to swing the moment he gets close enough. My hands shake, but I refuse to freeze, not after everything I survived tonight already. Vane notices the shift instantly. He drives his elbow into the first assassin's throat, dropping him hard, and pivots just in time to catch the second one's wrist before the blade reaches me. Bones crack under his grip. The assassin screams, and Vane wrenches the blade free, driving it straight into his chest without hesitation. The third assassin hangs back near the broken window, watching the fight with cold calculation instead of joining it. You're supposed to be dying, the man says, voice flat. The poison should have kept you locked in that form for weeks. How are you standing here? Vane's eyes flash with fury. Tell Sterling his poison failed. It didn't fail, the assassin says, tilting his head slightly. Something interrupted it. His gaze slides toward me. Ice floods my veins. I realize in that instant that my scent, the same scent I used to calm Vane during his fever, must have done more than soothe him. It broke the poison's hold entirely, and now this man knows exactly why. An unregistered omega, the assassin says, almost amused. Fascinating. Sterling will want to know his king's life was saved by the very thing his laws were built to destroy. Vane moves before I can process the words. He crosses the room in 2 strides and drives the stolen blade through the assassin's chest before another sentence leaves his mouth. The man drops without a sound, and silence falls hard and sudden over the cabin, broken only by the crackle of the dying fire and my own ragged breathing. Vane stands over the bodies, chest heaving, blood splattered across bare skin, the iron rod still gripped tight in one hand. Then he turns to look at me. His silver eyes burn with something raw, something that mixes fury with a desperation I do not fully understand yet. He crosses the room toward me, and I stay frozen, clay pot still gripped uselessly in my hands, watching a king soaked in blood approach like I am the only steady thing left in his world. "You saved my life twice tonight," he says, voice rough. "I didn't mean to," I whisper. "I didn't know my scent could do that." "It shouldn't have been able to," he says, kneeling in front of me, eyes searching my face like he is trying to solve a puzzle buried somewhere behind my expression. "Unless you are not what you believe yourself to be." Before I can ask what he means, a horn sounds far off in the distance, deep and long, echoing across the ridge outside. Vane's whole body goes still. "That horn only sounds for one reason," he says quietly, eyes lifting toward the shattered window. "Sterling knows I am alive. And now he knows exactly where to find me." Chapter 7. The horn sounds again, closer this time, and Vane is already moving before the echo fades. He crosses to the broken window and looks out into the dark, jaw tight, blood still drying across his knuckles. I stand slowly, legs shaking, gripping the edge of the overturned chair for balance. "How many men does Sterling have?" I ask. "Enough," Vane says without turning around. "He does not send scouts unless he already has an army ready to march behind them." My chest tightens. "An army? Coming here?" "Not yet," he says, "but soon." He turns to face me, and the fury from moments ago has settled into something colder, more controlled. He studies the bodies on my floor, the shattered glass, the blood soaked into wood that has never seen this much violence in 6 quiet years. "Sterling wanted me dead quietly," he says, "poisoned, trapped in a form no one would recognize, left to rot in some forgotten corner of the territory while he seized the throne in my name. My survival changes everything. He will not risk sending 3 men again. He will bring enough soldiers to be certain." "Why does he want you dead?" I ask. "You're the king. He answers to you." Vane's expression hardens. "Because I plan to end the rank enforcement laws." Sterling built his entire power around enforcing them. Every checkpoint, every registry line, every soldier hunting unregistered Omegas answers to him directly. If the laws disappear, so does his authority. The words hit me harder than I expect. 6 years of hiding, 6 years of fear, 6 years of watching boots pound toward my door in the dark, all built on laws that Vane himself intended to abolish before Sterling poisoned him to stop it. "You were going to end it," I whisper. "I was," he says. "I am still going to end it." Sterling only delayed the inevitable. A distant sound cuts through the night, low and rhythmic, boots against frozen ground, dozens of them, marching in unison toward the ridge. My blood runs cold. Vane's eyes sharpen instantly, tracking the sound with the focus of a man who has led armies before. "They're close," he says. "What do we do?" I ask, voice shaking. Vane looks at me, and something in his expression shifts, softer despite the danger closing in around us. He crosses the room and takes my face gently between his hands, silver eyes steady despite the chaos outside. "You are not going to fight," he says. "You are going to stay behind me, no matter what happens next." "I can fight," I say, even though my voice betrays how frightened I am. "I know," he says. "But tonight, you protect yourself, and let me handle Sterling's men." The marching grows louder, boots crashing through the treeline just beyond my cabin, torches flickering between dark trunks like scattered stars closing in from every direction. Vane releases my face and moves toward the door, iron rod still gripped tight in one hand. Before he reaches it, he turns back to me one final time. "Whatever happens," he says, "know that finding you on that porch was the only good thing to come from Sterling's betrayal." My throat tightens, words caught somewhere I cannot reach. Then the door bursts open, and soldiers pour into the clearing outside, torches blazing, blades drawn, dozens of shadows moving in formation under Sterling's command. Vane steps out onto the porch to meet them, bare-chested, bandages still wrapped around his ribs, blood from the assassins drying across his skin. "Sterling," he calls out, voice carrying across the clearing with the authority of a man born to command armies. "Come out and face me yourself, or are you too much of a coward to finish what your poison could not?" A figure steps forward from the tree-lean, tall and sharp-featured, dressed in armor far cleaner than any soldier standing behind him. "You should be dead," Sterling says, voice cold. "Your poison failed," Vane says, "and so will this." Sterling's eyes narrow, sliding past Vane toward the cabin door where I stand frozen in the frame. Recognition flickers across his face, followed by something colder, calculating. "The Omega," Sterling says. "So that's how you survived." Vane steps forward, blocking Sterling's line of sight to me completely. "Leave him out of this." "I cannot," Sterling says. "Not when his existence threatens everything I've built. An unregistered Omega breaking a royal poison meant to end you permanently. That story alone could unravel the entire rank enforcement system." Vane's whole body goes rigid with fury. "Then it should unravel," he says, voice thundering across the clearing. "Because I intend to end it myself." Sterling raises his hand, signaling the soldiers behind him to advance, and the entire clearing erupts into motion, blades drawn, torches raised, dozens of men closing in on a single wounded king standing between them and the person he refuses to let them touch. Chapter 8. Vane moves like something forged instead of born. The first soldier lunges, and Vane sidesteps clean, driving the iron rod into the man's throat before pivoting to catch a second attacker's blade against his forearm. Blood sprays across the porch steps. I press myself into the doorway, watching him fight through soldier after soldier with a precision that only comes from years of war. But there are too many. A blade slices across his shoulder. Another grazes his ribs, right where the bandage still sits. He grunts through the pain, refusing to slow, refusing to fall, cutting down every man who gets close enough to threaten the cabin behind him. Sterling watches from the tree-lean, arms crossed, expression cold and unreadable. "Kill the Omega first," he finally orders. Vane falls faster once his reason to fight disappears. Two soldiers break from the group and charge straight toward me. I grab the iron poker still leaning against the hearth and swing hard the moment the first soldier crosses the threshold. It connects with his jaw, snapping his head sideways, but the second soldier grabs my wrist before I can swing again, twisting hard enough that I cry out. Vane's head snaps toward the sound. Fury explodes across his face, and he abandons every soldier still standing between him and the cabin, crossing the distance in a blur of motion. He rips the second soldier off me with brutal force, snapping his neck before the man can even scream, and turns just in time to catch a blade aimed for my throat from the first soldier recovering behind him. He takes the blade with his bare hand instead of letting it reach me. Blood pours from his palm, but he does not flinch. He grips the soldier's wrist and snaps it clean, driving his knee into the man's chest hard enough to send him crashing through what remains of the broken window. Silence falls over the clearing. Every soldier still standing stares at their king, chest heaving, blood dripping steady from his hand. Standing protectively in front of an unregistered Omega, he is known for less than 2 days. Sterling steps forward slowly, expression shifting from cold calculation to something closer to disbelief. "You would bleed for him," Sterling says. "An Omega with no rank, no pack, no name in any registry. You would risk everything for that." "I already have," Vane says, voice steady despite the blood soaking his skin. "And I would do it again." Sterling's jaw tightens. "Then you leave me no choice." He draws his own blade, stepping fully into the clearing, and the remaining soldiers part to give their commander room. Vane straightens, ignoring the wound across his shoulder, ignoring the blood still dripping from his palm, and meets Sterling's gaze without a trace of fear. "You poisoned me," Vane says. "You sent assassins to finish what the poison failed to do. And now you march an army against a wounded king and one unarmed Omega because you fear losing power built on laws that never should have existed. Those laws kept order," Sterling snaps. "Those laws kept fear," Vane says. Fear of omegas who refused to be owned. Fear of anyone who threatened the system that made you powerful. That ends tonight. Sterling charges. Vane meets him head-on, and the fight that follows is nothing like the ones before it. Every strike carries the full weight of betrayal behind it, blades clashing so fast sparks fly bright against the dark trees surrounding the clearing. Sterling is skilled, trained for exactly this kind of confrontation, but Vane fights with something Sterling does not have. He fights like a man with something worth protecting. The end comes fast. Sterling overextends on a strike aimed for Vane's chest, and Vane sidesteps, driving his elbow into Sterling's spine hard enough to send him crashing face first into the frozen ground. Before Sterling can rise, Vane's boot presses hard against his back, blade pointed directly at the base of his skull. "Yield," Vane says, "or die exactly where you fell." Sterling's whole body goes rigid, breath ragged against the dirt. "I yield," he finally growls. The remaining soldiers lower their weapons instantly, watching their commander pinned beneath the king they were sent to kill. Vane straightens slowly, chest heaving, blood dripping from a dozen wounds across his body, and turns back toward the cabin where I still stand frozen in the doorway. Our eyes meet across the clearing, and for the first time since this entire nightmare began, I see something steady in his expression instead of danger. Chapter 9. Vane orders the soldiers to bind Sterling and haul him back toward the capital before he even bothers to look at his own wounds. I rush down the porch steps the second the last soldier disappears into the treeline, grabbing his arm before he can wave off the blood still pouring from his palm. He winces but does not pull away, letting me guide him back inside toward the fire. "Sit," I tell him, voice firmer than I expect. He almost smiles despite everything. "You give orders well for someone who spent 6 years hiding from mine." "Your laws?" I say, grabbing clean bandages from the shelf. "Not mine." The words land harder than I intend, and his expression shifts, something heavy settling behind his silver eyes as I wrap fresh cloth around his palm. I work in silence for a moment, cleaning the wound across his shoulder next, aware of how close we are, aware of how much has changed since the moment blood first hit my porch. "I never saw it," Vane finally says. "Not really. I signed laws meant to preserve order, and I told myself the cost was necessary. I never stood in a cabin like this one, watching an Omega live in fear every single night because of ink I put on paper." "You're seeing it now," I say quietly. "I am," he says, "and it is worse than I imagined." He looks around the cabin, at the sparse furniture, the hidden floorboards still open from earlier, the single window I have never bothered replacing glass in because I never expected visitors. 6 years of surviving alone, stitched together in a single small room built entirely around hiding. "This is what my laws created," he says. "Fear disguised as order. Isolation disguised as protection. You can still change it," I say. "I intend to," he says, voice hardening with resolve. "Tonight." Before I can respond, a low rumble rises from the ridge outside, distant at first, then growing steadily louder. My whole body tenses. Vane rises immediately, ignoring the pain still radiating from his wounds, moving toward the broken window to look out into the dark. Rows of torches flicker along the treeline, far more than Sterling brought with him. An entire army marches toward the cabin, banners raised, the crest I now recognize instantly stitched into every flag. "Reinforcements," Vane says. "Word of tonight already reached the capital." "What do they want?" I ask, fear creeping back into my chest. "To see if their king survived," he says, "and to see what he intends to do next." He turns to me, expression steady despite the army approaching through the dark. "I am not going to hide from this," he says. "And I am not going to let you hide either, not anymore." My breath catches. "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done the moment I realized these laws caused nothing but suffering," he says. "I am going to end them publicly, in front of every soldier marching toward this cabin." Fear and hope tangle together so tightly in my chest I can barely breathe. 6 years of hiding, And now the very man responsible for that fear stands ready to undo it in front of an entire army. They won't accept it easily, I warn. Sterling built his power on those laws. Others will have built power the same way. Then they will have to accept a king willing to bleed for what is right instead of what is convenient, Vane says. He strips off his ruined, blood-soaked shirt entirely, wrapping fresh cloth tight around his ribs instead, standing taller despite every wound marking his skin. The torches outside grow closer, illuminating the clearing in flickering orange light, hundreds of soldiers now visible through the trees. "Stay close to me," he says, offering his uninjured hand. "Whatever happens next, I want you standing beside me when it does." I take his hand without hesitation, fingers lacing through his despite the blood still drying across his knuckles. Together we step out onto the porch, facing an army large enough to crush the entire ridge if given the order. Vane raises his uninjured hand high, silencing the murmurs rippling through the assembled soldiers. "I am your king," he calls out, voice carrying clear across the clearing. And tonight, everything changes. Chapter 10. The soldiers fall completely silent, hundreds of torches flickering across a clearing gone still as stone. Vane stands tall on the porch beside me, his grip steady around my hand despite the blood still drying across his knuckles. Every eye in that army locks onto him, waiting, uncertain whether they are looking at a king returned from the dead or a man about to fall where he stands. 6 years ago, Vane begins, voice carrying easily across the frozen clearing. I signed the rank enforcement laws believing they would preserve order among our packs. I was wrong. Murmurs ripple through the soldiers, quickly silenced by a sharp look from their commanding officers. Tonight, Vane continues, an unregistered Omega saved my life twice. Once from a wound that should have killed me, and once from a poison meant to erase me entirely. The very laws I created labeled him a criminal for surviving without a pack, without a claim, without permission to simply exist. He turns his head slightly, silver eyes finding mine for just a moment before facing the army again. "If the laws I built could not see the worth in the person who saved my life," he says, "then those laws were never protecting anyone. They were only ever protecting power." He releases my hand and steps forward towards Sterling, still bound and kneeling near the front of the assembled soldiers, face twisted with fury and disbelief. Sterling built his authority on enforcing those laws. Vane announces, "Poison me to protect that authority. Sent assassins to finish what the poison could not." As of tonight, Sterling holds no rank, no title, no command over any soldier standing in this clearing. 2 guards step forward instantly, hauling Sterling to his feet despite his furious protests, dragging him back through the parting crowd toward whatever fate awaits traitors in the capital. Vane turns back to face the remaining soldiers, voice rising with the full authority of a king who has finally seen the truth behind his own laws. "As of this moment," he declares, "the rank enforcement laws are abolished. Every unregistered Omega across every territory under my crown is free. No more registries, no more checkpoints, no more soldiers hunting people down simply for choosing to live without a claim." The clearing erupts into stunned silence, followed by scattered murmurs that slowly build into something closer to disbelief mixed with awe. Soldiers glance between each other, uncertain, watching their king dismantle the very system many of them were trained to enforce their entire lives. "Spread the word across every territory," Vane orders. Tonight, everything changes. The soldiers begin to disperse slowly, torches retreating back through the trees, whispers carrying the news faster than any messenger could manage alone. Within minutes, the clearing empties entirely, leaving only scattered footprints and dying embers where torches once burned bright against the dark. Vane turns back to me, exhaustion finally settling across his features now that the danger has passed. "It's done," he says quietly. "You just abolished 6 years of my fear in front of an entire army." I whisper, still struggling to believe what I witnessed. "I owed you far more than that," he says, closing the distance between us until barely any space remains. His hand lifts to my face, thumb brushing gently along my cheek, silver eyes softer now than I have ever seen them. The scent between us rises thick and warm, his alpha instincts responding openly to my presence for the first time without fever or danger clouding the moment. I am not leaving this cabin, he says. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. You're a king, I remind him softly. You have a capital waiting for your return. The capital can wait, he says. I finally found the one thing worth staying for. His lips meet mine, slow and certain, filled with everything neither of us dared say through the chaos of the last 2 days. The kiss deepens, warm and steady, his hands sliding into my hair while my fingers curl against his chest, feeling his heartbeat finally calm beneath my palm. When we finally part, he rests his forehead against mine, breathing slow and even for the first time since blood first hit my porch. Every law that stole your freedom is gone, he murmurs. And I intend to spend the rest of my life making sure nothing ever threatens it again. Outside, the last torches disappear into the dark, leaving only silence and starlight settling over Silver Lake. Inside, wrapped in the arms of a king who chose love over power, I finally understand what it means to stop hiding and start living. If the story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story on this channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and share this story with someone who needs a little hope tonight. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. The end.